Welcome today. So this webinar is on autonomous IT operations in hybrid IT environments using observability and AIOps. My name is Subramaniam Krishnan. I am the Vice President of Marketing at Ananta Technology. Ananta as an organization specializes in creating secure, compliant digital workspaces across private, public, and hybrid clouds. We have our managed virtual desktop endpoint systems, cloud services. All of these work with enterprises so that we can give them secure access to their applications and data. We use a lot of AI and machine learning, which is the in thing today, so that our platforms can optimize your operations. Ananta has been recognized by Gartner in their Magic Quadrant for 2 years running for providing desktop as a service. With more than a decade of our expertise, we have migrated over 750,000 desktops, remote desktop users through these years, and currently manage more than 300,000 desktops every month. With me today, please join me in welcoming Neeraj Kumar, who is the Director for Solutions and Engineering, APG and GSI, with our partner SolarWinds. Neeraj, welcome to today's session.
Thanks, Subbu, and thanks everybody for joining this session. Just a bit of introduction about myself. My name is Neeraj Kumar. I'm basically a solutions engineering professional with working across pre-sales, solution consulting, architecture, and customer value realization. Come up with around 20 plus years of experience across working across solutions and domain in monitoring, AIOps, observability, data analytics, automation, these areas and all. And I currently lead solutions engineering team for SolarWinds for the Asia Pacific business as well as the global SI business. Okay. Now, a little bit about SolarWinds as a company. I mean, obviously SolarWinds has been in industry for like 25 plus years. I mean, this year actually we are celebrating 25 years.
Wow, congratulations.
Yep. Thanks. Yeah. And the mission, obviously, of SolarWinds, what we call is that we help accelerate business transformation for our customers using simple, powerful, and secured solutions, catering across the hybrid IT and multi-cloud environments and all. I mean, if you look at the solutions, mainly are across two pillars, what we call as monitoring and observability, and the IT service management pieces. One thing which I kind of quite like about SolarWinds is that our purpose obviously is to enrich lives of our customers, partners, employees, communities, and all, and the IT environment and all. Because I mean, it's a complex job in IT environment to do, and if we can help everybody in this area, I mean, that's what we are here for. Okay.
Great. It usually is mission critical for most organizations. So before we begin today, people, I have a few housekeeping notes for today's sessions. So this webinar is approximately for 45 minutes, which is going to be followed by any questions that you may have, thoughts that you would like to share, anything at all for the next 15 minutes. All the participants would be muted during this session so that there are minimum disruptions. You could use the question and answer button at the bottom of your chat window or the chat feature to ask any questions. We will take these questions and address them towards the end of the webinar session. Now, this session is being recorded and it will be shared with you right after the webinar. So you should expect to receive the link so that you can download it and maybe even share it with other people or keep it with you for future use. If any of you experience any kind of difficulty, technical difficulty, please try and refresh your browser if you're using the browser to watch the session, or the app, you might have to reconnect with the app again. And if you still need any more assistance, please send us an email if email is the only application that's working, or if the chat feature is still working, then you could even chat with us. The email that you will have to send is at marketing@anantatech.com. Right. On that note, let me begin. So what's it that we are discussing today? We're going to talk about organizations that have increasingly moved towards hybrid IT environments. So 2020 was kind of a pivotal point for most organizations globally, wherein they moved from having only office-driven work to largely hybrid IT work, hybrid workplace, I should say. So IT had to quickly do a catch up and had to enable themselves, get ahead of themselves so that they can support the entire workforce using a hybrid environment. Now, a lot of emerging technologies like generative AI, AIOps, hyperautomation, they've all become extremely crucial in today's world. These technologies help someone streamline processes, achieve scalability, enhance the security, optimize both on-premises and cloud infrastructure. So what we're going to talk about today, where it's going to be largely a free-flowing discussion between Neeraj and me, is we will explore how full stack observability, it provides complete visibility and insights across your IT stack, the entire IT stack. Now, when we combine this with AI ops, all your AI ML powered recommendations, it can drive continuous optimizations, automate the process, and assist with actual root cause analysis, and thereby remediate when an issue arises. That note, Neeraj, let me ask you, set the ball rolling over here. So I've mentioned observability and AI ops quite a few times in the last few minutes over here. Can you describe what does that actually mean for the sake of our audience?
Yeah, that's a good question to start with. So everybody talks about observability, correct? But think of it how it has evolved. Okay, earlier we used to call that as monitoring or visibility, or kind of server monitoring, network monitoring, and all of those things and all. Correct. Idea was that you try to understand the visibility and you try to understand the health and the performance of the systems. Correct. You are basically it was mainly think of it as a passive. You are polling some data, you are trying to measure the health and all, correct. If you think from an observability perspective, it's around that the systems are capable of sending the data about their health, which is in the form of a telemetry data which they expose or send to you in form of what we call as a metrics, events, logs, or in case of applications also traces, correct. So systems are basically sending that data and the platforms are basically taking all those data and analyzing those data, correct.
Mhm.
The other thing which you think from observability perspective is also, if you think from a monitoring perspective, it was like, you know what to monitor. I mean, I typically call that as a known thing. You know what to monitor, and the systems were okay. Like it was simple servers, networks, some virtual machines, some apps running, and you knew what can go wrong and what to monitor. But in case of observability, obviously with the complex systems and dependencies and all, and it's not like a siloed problem. I mean, the problem can happen like one thing can spun up some other things and things like that, correct? So you basically don't know what to monitor. So you basically start monitoring each and everything. That's why we call that as a full stack observability, correct? Right from your network infra apps to databases, user experience, and all of those things and all. And you also don't know what can go wrong, correct? So then you basically leverage these things like AI and machine learning to analyze that data and make sense of the data, correct? So that's where AI ops comes into picture, to add to observability, is that the observability is basically collecting the data, and then the AI ops is basically acting on that data, applying machine learning to make sense of that data. And can be multiple use cases around that. Like you are trying to understand the root causes, you are trying to correlate events, do dependencies, maybe get some insights, recommendations, and all of those things. So there can be a lot of use cases around this whole AI ops piece.
Okay, interesting. Could you give us an example of a use case, since you mentioned there are several use cases, one use case that you could think of right away?
Yeah, I mean, so one use case is, for example, I mean, especially if you talk of all these AIs and machine learnings is that, and with this Gen AI coming, you can have a kind of a large language model which analyzes your data and gives you recommendations, correct? Like this is how your, uh, let's say, database query needs to be fine-tuned based on the load factors you are having and all, correct? This is how your virtual machines needs to be scaled up, or you have these sprawls and all of those things and all, correct? Or maybe this is normal, this is abnormal, correct? So those can be the use cases of AI ops.
Interesting. Um, Another thing that we keep hearing about is obviously the entire shift to using AI or artificial intelligence using various machine language models. And we have seen that also come into ways of how it can kind of predict system failures, We've also read and heard stories about preventing security breaches or, identifying performance bottlenecks as well. What do you think is actually contributing to this upswing or this uptake of this kind of AI and ML in AIOps adoption?
Yeah, so think of perspective. I mean, every organization or every business we all talk to, correct? And I mean, everybody is going through some sort of a business transformation or digital transformation and all, correct?
Right.
Uh, like creating new channels of engagement, creating new revenue models, leveraging data to create some data-driven decisions or to launch some new business schemes and all of those things. Obviously, apart from that, also working on automating some of these stuffs and all, correct? Optimizations, performance improvements, productivity improvements, and all of those things and all, correct? Now, uh, with so much digital transformation going on, I mean, and which, if you look at the complexity around that, there is obviously underlying complexity that you need to leverage those hybrid environments and all, correct? There are workloads running in data center, there are workloads running in cloud. Uh, then you also have, I mean, you talked about security. I mean, security threats are getting more and more predominant.
Correct.
Attacks are getting more and more sophisticated, correct? And then you also have those challenges around the cost constraints, productivity improvements, do more with less, and all of those things and all, correct? Now, with those into consideration, I mean, you definitely you are forced to leverage AI and machine learning with these underlying hybrid environments and all, because I mean, humanly impossible to just make sense of that data with a manual processes and all, correct? So you need to leverage those AI and machine learning and observability and AI ops to make sense of that data. So that's, I think, is basically kind of a getting that uptick in the trends and where every organization is talking about this.
Okay. Do you see organizations needing to change the way that they have looked at the entire AI ops observability? So there have been some rapid shifts, just the way it's always in the technology world. You're looking at moving to an hybrid environment, and here suddenly it comes with its own set of challenges. I've been doing observability in a certain way, and now I've got AI, which has created another shift. Do you see that any particular blockers in that space? Because organizations need good visibility and data across their stack to drive AI ops. So, what are some of the common challenges that you see that is going to inhibit this kind of adoption?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, there are obviously challenges coming across all of these areas. If I actually bucket it, let's say, if I bucket it into five kind of types, okay, I typically bucket it into five areas. Okay, so one is, if you look at it, is basically a tool sprawl. Okay, what I will call is, think of it that every bit of technologies comes up with own tool to monitor and manage, correct? So you have so many tools to look at, which is obviously not working well. I mean, it is actually hindrance to that single pane of glass and automation and productivity improvements and all of those things and all, correct? The other thing, if you look at it, is that's also causing data silos. I mean, there are
Mhm.
siloed data sitting across multiple sources and all, which is also not helping because everything is connected. Maybe some workloads are running in cloud, some workloads are running in data center. It is obviously workloads are not in isolation. They are sitting on infra. They are leveraging networks. They are leveraging storage, correct? All these things needs to be looked into conjunction so that data silo doesn't help in getting to the root cause and getting to quick remediations or optimizations and all of those things and all, correct? If I look at the third thing, if you also look at it, there's also a skill gap, I would say, correct? I mean, with all these new technologies and especially with this AI coming and all of those things, I mean, we see there is a big skill gap where people don't know how these things are working, what can go wrong, for example, what to do in those kind of a situations and all, correct? Uh, Other thing, the fourth thing I would say is, I would also say is that too many kind of a noise, for example, or what you say, there may be a couple of unknowns also, for example, correct? So either you are getting too much data and which are not relevant, not contextualized, not correlated and all, or there are places where actually having a visibility gap. You are not able to monitor part of the things and all, which we see from organizations perspective. Like, okay, I'm doing server monitoring, I'm doing a little bit of cloud monitoring, I'm doing a little bit of application monitoring, but what about the connectivity? What about the user who is connecting from this place to that application and all of those things? So there can be multiple scenarios like that. So uh, that needs to be addressed. And then obviously the other thing, if you look at it, the fifth thing is like, should I optimize for performance or should I optimize for cost? Correct. I mean, if I provision more, I'm anyway unnecessarily bearing the cost and all, correct. And if I under provision and I may run a risk of meeting my SLAs and SLOs, correct. So which may impact my user experience and all. So a lot of these challenges are there, which definitely needs to be addressed. Uh, Correct.
Great. So, you spoke about all of these challenges. Um, what are probably two or three things that an organization can or should do so that they could quickly overcome these challenges?
Yeah, but maybe let me ask you also before that challenges. I mean, you also talk about from another perspective a lot about digital workplace and business
Mhm.
transformation. What are some of the challenges you guys see?
I think from our perspective, the biggest challenge that we have seen, and I'm just going to take one aspect of the entire observability, right? The most visible aspect of observability as such, which is typically the support desk, which runs and which either supports it in person, or there is remote, or it's either through a telephone or a chat, whichever tool, right? Most organizations that we have seen operate on a kind of a reactive support model. So which is more monitoring than observability. The monitoring, the way that we would talk about is an application is down or server is down, you monitor it. You would kind of know that this is down and it went down from point A to point B. Then post the incident, you get to know what are the root cause that you do based on the tools that you have with you, and then you try and fix them. Observability goes probably a little further, and which is where we keep talking about our offerings, which is everything around endpoint management, endpoint systems, um, being a little more. So we're not just talking about monitoring. We actually collecting, analyzing data, which is a part of monitoring anyway. But actually, we are using a lot of AI models, ML models, to draw those correlations in real time. And we use those correlations to actually tell you, hey, this is your blind spot.
Yep.
And if this is your blind spot, this is how we can correct it. Let's get ahead of the problem before it actually hits you. So that's where we, go ahead and move organizations from where they are at a certain level, get them to the next level. That's what we specialize in.
Yep. No, I think that's the right approach. And yeah, let me answer the question which you asked, like how do we solve all these challenges, correct? And as you rightly said, I mean, see, the thing actually starts is that first, if you go step by step, it actually starts with collecting the data, correct, which is all about full stack observability, correct? Now you collect the data across your hybrid environments, right from your I would say network to infra, either data center or cloud, or to virtualization layers, or to you're using these voice over IP applications, correct? You're using servers, you're using applications, either it's a custom applications or commercial off the shelf applications. Then you have databases, then you have security, correct?
Correct.
You have user experience, like users are consuming your applications, correct, from your endpoints or from your web browsers or mobile apps and all. You collect the data about application performance. So idea is that how can you collect data across all of these entities, correct, and make it part of the observability platform, correct, so that you have a single pane of glass to collect all these data and all, correct. Now, the next step obviously comes is the the AI ops layer or the correlation layer, what we call as, correct. Now,
Mhm.
AI ops layer basically analyzes all that data and comes up with like what is normal, what is abnormal, correct. How these things are related, how these are all dependent on each other, so that you can do those causality and dependency analysis. It also helps with the insights, recommendations by analyzing that data that let's say this is where I'm doing a VM sprawl I need to optimize. This is the query which needs to be fine-tuned like this. This is the network path which needs to be optimized, correct? This is where I'm having a not a deviating from my golden configuration, or I need to do a upgrade to my server or to my network devices with the latest image. This is where, let's say, there is a security vulnerability which is existing, which I need to fix up, correct? If it's important or highly critical and all, correct? So a lot of those things actually gets done from the AI ops layer, and the use cases keep on building and developing on that area, correct? The correlation piece is also there. I mean, we don't say that, okay, everybody is using, let's say, just SolarWinds as a platform for everything, correct? You may be using some other solutions also for some other monitoring, let's say for application monitoring or for cloud monitoring and all. How can you ingest those data also in terms of events or metrics to our platform where we can correlate that data and give you root causes and all, correct? Like, for example, maybe the application issue is because of something, because of network connectivity and all, correct? So how can you correlate that data? So that event correlation layer also comes into picture. So this actually takes care of how we can detect things and all, and how we can accelerate the detection, correct? Next step obviously comes with the remediation piece, where you obviously kind of create a ticket. So we have a solution for IT service management where you can create a ticket which can take those smart incidents, a lot of those generative AI capabilities to assist the agent to quickly fix up issues, look at runbooks, match with relevant runbooks to remediate those things and all, summarize the issues and all of those things and all, correct? And then obviously, typically you'll have a automation layer, which we provide, where you can automate those remediations and all via runbook automations, tying into your automation solutions and all of those things and all. So idea is that how can you take care of that whole detect to correct life cycle, where you detect quickly using AI-powered detection, and you obviously remediate quickly using those AI-powered resolutions or remediations and all, correct? And the next steps, obviously, I mean, if we are solving the problem of mean time to detect and mean time to remediate, the next step also come is that can you also prevent these things from happening, correct? Can you be more proactive and preventive to take things and fix up things before it actually becomes a problem? So that life cycle also we can follow, which is what we call as to be more proactive and preventative, and drive those automations and optimizations beforehand before it actually boils down to an issue, correct? So that's the whole that's the way which SolarWinds as a platform is solving these issues.
Interesting. I'm actually going to take a part of your response and split it into my next two questions that I have. So, of course, we spoke about observability, AIOps, driving visibility, insights. How do we leverage more on automation so that we can drive remediations? See, the visibility insights part is something that a CIO or an IT head would say, hey, listen, I am pretty sorted. But how do we use it to drive remediation optimizations that's needed for the autonomous IT operations?
Yeah, so that's I think that's the conversation. If we do that across most of the organizations, is that, see, we are getting visibility, correct? I mean, at least I mean, we may not be doing with a single platform, single pane of glass. That's where the opportunity lies for these tools consolidation and operational excellence, because that actually becomes one of the precursors or prerequisites to drive these automations and hyper automations, as we call it, correct? But if we are through that layer, then idea is that you basically drive these what we call as a noise reductions and all, correct? Like, there may not be, I mean, typically things in these complex hyper connected environments and all are not running in isolation, correct? I mean, one thing may lead to another, or that may lead to another, and also you need to understand. That's why I keep on specifying, stressing on that single pane of glass and consolidation layer, because you can get that insights and data that, okay, this is the root cause, and this is the optimization or recommendation required even before things fail, actually, correct? So that helps you drive those automations and move to that hyper automation, which is automating before things actually go break or wrong, get wrong, actually, correct? So and also there is, I mean, basically think of is that automation has to be at all layers, like how you can quickly discover these other things which are running in your environment, how you can quickly automate the monitoring configurations over there, that these ultimately starts getting monitored and all. And then how you can quickly automate those insights and all, and then automate the remediations and all if things are happening and all, correct? So a lot of time I mean, automation just talks about, okay, if this thing is issue, let's remediate that, which is just one piece of the automation or one piece of the thing, which is just a runbook automation that this issue happened and you are automating that. But think of automation is at everywhere. I mean, it is the main thing. And you need to automate the monitoring also. You need to automate the discovery also. You need to automate the optimization recommendations, visibility also, and then you drive that actual remediations and all. So that's what we say. Automation is actually across everywhere if you see. Yeah.
Interesting. So the other part to my question, so as a CIO or as an IT head who is responsible for, ensuring that everything is running picture perfect, what kind of security and other considerations should I investigate before actually considering or thinking about observability and AIOps solutions?
Yeah. So, I mean, especially in this kind of environment where security threats are getting more and more
Mhm.
sophisticated, correct? And obviously, new vulnerabilities which keep on coming up and all of those things and all, correct? I mean, there are, I would say, I mean, again, I'll break into three kind of a considerations, 3 points for ease of understanding. So if you look at it, one is obviously uh, the softwares or like what we are providing or any software which you are using for observability or AI ops or for that matter anything, it obviously needs to follow what we call as a secure by design principles and all, correct? So there are specifications like from CISA, NIST, which is around secured software development methodologies and guidelines and all of those things and all, correct?
Yeah.
Are we adhering to those standards and all? Because at least it gives us a one level of a safety, correct? Are we
Mhm.
adhering to those kind of standards when building the software itself and complying to those specifications and requirements itself and all, correct? The other thing which, I mean, most of these softwares obviously leverages some third-party libraries and all of those things and all, correct? So can we publish a SBOM for each of these softwares and all, which can easily be audited and easily, and then like if some vulnerabilities is coming in one of the libraries, how quickly you can fix up that and what you need to do on that and all. So that's another aspects and all, correct? Uh, then the second part, which I would call is like, obviously, you need to comply to the standards, correct? All these things obviously need to comply to the standards like you have ISO standards, you have ISO 27001, you have, if it's a SaaS software, which we also provide, it has to be SOC 2 certified, correct? We obviously are complying to the various regulations like
True.
GDPR, SOX, and all of these things and all, correct? So that's the second aspect. I mean, you should be certified and complying to all the regulations. And the third aspect, which is I feel more important, especially in terms of observability and AI of solutions, is that there is a question on like, okay, whether the solution should be on-premise or self-hosted or SaaS, correct? Now, the decision actually depends on that. What sort of legislative, what you're following, or what sort of data policy, what you are following. Are you comfortable sending your data out to a SaaS or a cloud, or are you not comfortable, or do you want to retain the data in-house? There is also consideration around, for example, for my on-premise workload, why should I send the data to a SaaS solution, correct? And for my SaaS or my workloads sitting in cloud, why should I send the data to a on-premise solution?
Correct.
So we at SolarWinds follow a kind of what we call as a hybrid approach. So we have solutions which works across all the workloads, and we give that flexibility and choice to a customer that, for example, we have observability self-hosted platform where customers can host it in
Mhm.
their choice of environment, either in their data center or in their cloud providers and all. And we also have things like observability SaaS, where we provide that as a software as a service. And we also have what we call as a kind of a bridge between both of these solutions also via means of a platform connect, what we call as, where whichever you are using, or even if you are using both, you can also get a single pane of glass. And also, for example, for your uh, for your hosted workloads, which you are hosting in data center, you can very well use a self-hosted solution. Let's say for your cloud workloads, which you are anywhere running in AWS and Azure and GCPs and all, you can very well use our SaaS solution also, for example, correct? And you can also get a consolidated visibility, single pane of glass also with all the data privileges as you want to keep your data, not to send to SaaS and all of those things and also, correct? So this is what I would say from a security considerations perspective.
Interesting. So, Neeraj, we spoke a lot about benefits We spoke about challenges, we spoke about benefits. Now let's talk a little about deployment.
Yep.
How can an organization get started by deploying observability? What do they need to have in place so that they can start seeing value? And what's a typical time frame for them to start seeing that value as well?
Yeah, so if you actually look at it, and I'll maybe try to answer in two aspects. So one is like, see, nobody is going to deploy. I mean, if you actually look at it, the monitoring, visibility, observability is no longer now kind of a good to have kind of a solution. It's a must have, correct? So most of the customers we talk to are maybe either using a couple of modules of SolarWinds. Maybe they are using SolarWinds for network monitoring or server monitoring or some aspects and all, correct? Or if customers are using some other solutions for some things which they are not comfortable with, not happy with, and all of those things and all. So we always focus on that. Okay, you kind of go to a platform-based approach of full stack observability. You kind of move everything to single pane of glass, consolidate all of those things and all, uh,
Mhm.
which actually gives you that operational excellence, tools consolidation, uh, doing more with less kind of a thing, scenarios and all, a lot of those benefits and all. So that becomes a typical kind of a deployment, or I would say a migration approach, which we provide to our customers. Uh, if they're using something else, maybe they're using some solution which is no longer applicable or kind of a getting end of lives and all. We can consolidate to that also, consolidate that part too also. So another aspect which I would call is that there are areas where customers have visibility gaps and all. I mean, they don't have anything for that part of the estate, either it be it network, applications, servers, infra, security, and all. I mean, you can start with that and then consolidate to the platform-based approach across all of those things and all, correct. So those are the two aspects which we look from a deployment perspective and migration or a consolidation perspective, which we propose to the customers here. I mean, that's the best way to actually get value realization also, which is important because ultimately, if you look from outcome perspective, I mean, what are you going to achieve, correct? I mean, you want to achieve uh, accelerate the mean time to repair, mean time to diagnose, mean time to detect, correct, and mean time to remediate. That's one aspect, which is what we call as MTTX acceleration. The other aspects is that can you do that with a reduced cost than what you are already using, correct?
Mhm.
Can you do that with more operational efficiency uh, with your operations processes? And can you optimize those operations processes also along with your integration with existing solutions and all those things and all? So we think of outcomes also because that's the value piece. And then we also think of how do we plan out the whole deployment mechanism or methodology.
Great.
Sorry, this was a little long answer, but yeah, I think.
So, no, so I think for a lot of our participants over here, the question is, when do I start seeing this value, right? I mean, I know it's beneficial, I know it's useful, but so in your experience of having worked with different organizations, Neeraj, where do you see, or rather, at what point of time do you start seeing that value for the customer?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll reiterate the point. See, the value is obviously if you are able to accelerate the detection piece, correct? And as we call as AI-powered accelerated detection, or if you are able to accelerate, and obviously if you are able to accelerate the remediation piece, which is what we call as the AI-powered accelerated remediation, correct? And again, I mean, uh, it's all about how you can kind of prevent these things from happening. I mean, it's like think of if you want to move to autonomous operations, correct? We want all these things to happen in an automated fashion, like right from the discovery to monitoring to detection to insights recommendations and finally remediations and executions and all of those things. So how we can automate this whole cycle so that everything runs in seamless fashion, in a pretty much autonomous fashion and all. So that's the, I would say, the nirvana state where everybody wants to move. And obviously, it takes a bit of time based on organization processes, organization practices,
So
various siloed teams and cultures and all of those things also. But that's the nirvana state, and that's the value realization which everybody would like to get. Yeah.
great. So now let's move a little to the future. How do you see observability and AI ops evolving going ahead, especially with Gen AI being used more and more? How do you see it helping IT operations and teams?
Yeah, I mean, so Gen AI and I would more say all these large language models and all these technologies like Open AIs and Geminis and other models from Amazon and all these other providers and all actually has bring a lot of good things to this whole AI operations and all. Correct. So think about and if you just talk of the two problems, one is we want to uh, quickly do improve the mean time to detect and mean time to remediate, correct?
Mhm.
So if you talk of that AI-powered detection, I mean, there are can be capabilities, for example, where we can leverage, and in some aspects, we are already doing that in our solutions. For example, you can leverage these large language models to drive these recommendations, correct? Analyze data and give the recommendations as the best practices and all correct. Maybe use machine learning models to do these correlations, correct? To do these dependencies analysis and all of those things and all correct.
Right.
Uh, Maybe look at logs, do summarization, correct? So a lot of use cases are evolving with these Gen AI and obviously a little bit more into the AI ML advancements also, which is coming. The other aspect, if you look at from a remediation perspective, which is AI powered remediations and all, I mean, you can get those assisted auto remediations and all. Like it matches
Mhm.
you to the relevant run books, helps you execute that. And once you gain confidence, you can have it automated completely without any manual intervention and all correct. It helps you summarizing those incidents, tickets, and all of those things and all, creating a smart response to the users and the communities or the end users of the applications and all correct. A lot of those things like think of similarity analysis, like how it was. I mean, similar issue happened or similar pattern of sequence of events happened in past. Potentially that may happen. Maybe two things have happened. Maybe three other things potentially can happen because something similar happened in past, and this was how it was remediated, resolved, and all of those things. And also, a lot of those things are coming in future. Again, I mean, to kind of summarize, I would say idea is these things are ultimately helping in automating the every aspect of this whole IT operations, right from I mean moving into autonomous IT operations where you basically auto detect entities inside my environment, set up for monitoring, start getting visibility insights across them. And if things go wrong, ultimately fix up that problem, correct? So mainly ops teams is more focusing on visual operations, and then they can focus more on driving the revenue generating activities as well as the business transformations and all, while the operations obviously runs in a pretty much autonomous way. That is where I mean things are moving actually. Yeah. And as a company and as a solutions, we are also moving in that area. Yeah.
Great, Neeraj. So let me just tell you that the future is actually here now
Yeah.
because as you may know, so at Ananta, what we're doing is we are helping now customers move to the concept of what's called a zero help desk, right? So which is where obviously using your solutions and other solutions along with it, we're talking of things like self-heal, self-help, a whole lot of things. Before you actually need to even raise or a ticket. So I'm not talking of a natural ticket being raised. There is a ticket somewhere raised in the system, but a person, a human being coming and looking at your machine is now much later in the entire support life cycle, if I can call it that, than where it is today. So yes, in a lot of senses, future is here. It's just about how quickly the others embrace it.
Yep.
Right? Neeraj, thank you so much for your time. I think it was a great discussion. I hope our participants agree as well. It's a great discussion. We have come to an end to what we wanted to kind of cover today. We are open to questions and answers, and we would happily answer them. If you have anything, just put it down in the Q&A. Uh, Hit that button right at the bottom of your chat. Either we have answered everything phenomenally well, looks like. There is a question. Here is a question from Mr. Rajiv Sharaf. This question is, how does it compare with Dynatrace?
Yeah, I mean, let me take up, think of a perspective that most of, if you look at SolarWinds as a observability solution, our goal is to focus on end-to-end visibility, correct? So you can go deeper into network, you can go deeper into servers, you can go deeper into other aspects of your infrastructures like cloud applications and all of those things and all, correct? It's all about what I typically, rather than doing a comparison, what I would say is that you need to look at the depth and the breadth, actually, correct? That's where things are moving from an observability and AIOps perspective. So what is the depth and a breadth? And are you getting a right level of depth and a breadth, correct? You can maybe use a couple of solutions to meet that requirement, but more important is that you need to look at the depth and breadth, correct? So are you getting, let's say, right level of depth in network monitoring, or are you getting a right level of breadth, which covers like, is the solution covering network, infra applications, servers, custom applications, COTS applications, storage, and all of those things are all correct. So, that's where the platform play comes into picture, that if you are getting a reasonable level of depth and breadth, uh, that becomes a good criteria to decide on a solution and all, correct. And also, it's not like there are solutions, for example, Dynatrace, where we can coexist also, correct. Maybe, we have customers who use Dynatrace as a solution for applications. They use SolarWinds for network infra monitoring because of the depth, what they want gets done by SolarWinds for network and infra. Maybe the depth they want for application gets covered by Dynatrace. So we can coexist also. As I mentioned, we also have an event correlation layer where it can take data from third-party solutions and kind of a correlate to that picture. So I wouldn't say kind of a comparison and all. It is all about what you want as an
What the
organization from a
requirement is.
monitoring and observability solution, and it can coexist also, correct? Complement each other also.
Okay, great. Hopefully, Mr. Sharaf, we've answered your question. I have one more question here, which has just popped up. Are there any self-healing or proactive remediation features that can address endpoint issues without user intervention?
Yeah, you want to take that up?
I think it's a question more with respect to the way that your platform plays. So maybe you may want to answer this one, Neeraj.
Yeah, so think of a self-healing is all about, for example, you can define, see the infrastructure components, things don't come up with what we call as a self-healing capabilities and all, correct? You need to define. For example, let's say you can always define that, okay, then let's just take a very simple example of a network. For example, I have a configuration on a network device, and I mark that as a golden configuration or my base configuration. Let's say somebody just goes and changes something, or if something changes, the platform can compare that, okay, there is a deviation, and it automatically goes and pushes the right configuration so that nothing happens, correct? So that itself becomes one of the self-healing use cases and all, correct? So idea is that you can define scenarios and all. For example, it can be like if there are issues and maybe I need to spun up an additional machine because of performance parameters and all, you can define an automation rule, which basically creates a ticket also and maybe aligns the RBA to scale up based on performance factors, degradations, and all of those things and all. So it's all about defining those rules so that systems can run in a autonomous fashion, I would say.
Okay, great. So I think it's again boiling down to the same thing, saying what's the requirement in the organization, what level of automation do you need? Because I think it's directly proportional to immediate cost investment versus the returns that you get over a certain period of time. So I think every organization would have a different appetite. Based on that, they would be able to decide. Okay, great. I have one more question which has just popped up, and then maybe we could again talk about this together. What's the typical time that's taken to onboard and implement for anything which has got to do with endpoint services, AI ops platforms. So from a platform perspective, what would your answer be, Neeraj? I'll probably take the services piece.
Yeah, so I mean, see the with the automation capabilities around the discovery, the onboarding, and all of those things and all, it's not much, correct? I mean, we have, uh, I mean, for a mid enterprise kind of organization, I would say we have done the whole onboarding and implementations in as quick as max 1 month or 3 to 4 weeks, actually, correct? Uh, Once you obviously you need some data also for a couple of things like AI and stuff to start working and all once the some data collects and all, but at least you can start with
Yeah.
uh, the 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 rules, the baselines and all, which are ultimately available in the platform and all, correct. If you talk of a large complex deployments also where you have to do these integrations to, let's say, IT service management solutions, your other CI/CD solutions and all of those things and all, operationalize that as per the process also of the organizations and all, maybe add uh, another 2 weeks kind of a thing. So I would say 3 to 4 weeks or max 6 weeks should be fine.
Great. Yeah. So I can actually talk to you about a live example of something that we just did very recently. So last month we signed up with a very large private bank in India, and we had to migrate all their endpoints. And I'm talking of 32,000 plus endpoints spread across over 1,300 locations in the country. We completed the entire migration and went live in 3 weeks.
Yep.
So I guess it's absolutely possible. Uh, it again boils down to the kind of a vision that the IT team has, the kind of clarity that they have, saying how they want to go about, which is where I think organizations like you and I come in, and we give them that vision board and help them map it out so that they can reach where they would like to reach. And while I say that, I have one more question here. Maybe this is a little more for me than for the platform itself. What kind of SLAs do you provide for endpoint uptime, performance monitoring, and issue resolution? I think that's a really good question. So there are certain industry benchmarks for all of these KPIs. Every IT team, every IT head, CIO would look at this. At Ananta, for our clients, and we've been working, as I said, for more than a decade. Um, so we have measured this across clients, across diverse industries, diverse geographies too. And looking at that, we have certain numbers here. So I'm just going to share those numbers. So typically what we have seen is our system uptime is 99.98. So this is beyond the three nines that most IT teams look at. Our incident response time is below 15 minutes. And the number of incidents that we have for several of our customers, we hit a zero point 0.3 incident per month, which is much, much, much better than typically the industry average. And of course, I'm giving an industry average across different industries. For some, it might be a little lower and a little higher. We've seen industry average being around 5 incidents per month, and we are at zero point 0.3, which is, uh, about less than even 10% of what typically you would see. Our mean time to repair is around 30 minutes, whereas the industry average, again, that we have seen is around 4 hours. So this is where I think having done this for such a long time and having made use of a whole lot of automation, and now it's becoming intelligent automation, I should say. It's not just automation. We have really challenged and we have bested the industry averages in most cases.
Those are amazing numbers.
Thank you. Okay, great. I think that was a great session. Thank you so much, Neeraj, once again for your time. I hope all the participants liked it. You would get a recorded session link following after the session is done. And as I said, you could share this and you could use it even in future. Also, it would be hosted on our social media platforms, on the website, etc. So you're welcome to go over there as well. You could look us up either at Ananta Technologies on LinkedIn or SolarWinds also on LinkedIn. It'd be great if you could follow us, because you could keep getting invites and you could keep getting information about whatever we share. And that's going to be useful for you. Thank you to all the participants. I hope you have a lovely rest of the day and a great week ahead. Thank you once again, Neeraj.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Subbu. Thanks a lot, everybody, for joining this. Thanks.